the heart and soul of the digital signage industry is education. And we look at kind of manifestation of that is the Digital Signage Federation, and literally in the mandate, in the bylaws, is the total dedication of educating the industry about digital signage and all that it means. And as you and I have discussed on numerous occasions, the fact of the matter is this whole industry has really evolved from basically a retail medium when the original Digital Retail Expo of San Francisco fame first took place, all the way 10 years plus later to the digital signage industry being a standalone business, something, an industry on its own that has breadth and depth and lives. And in that regard, you have to develop a cadre, a core of professionals. And the core of professionals are people that, like in the architectural industry and like in the medical profession and the legal profession, you have to have certifications. You have to have something that says, I understand the fundamentals, I ascribe to certain business practices of codes of ethics, if you will, and the Digital Signage Federation stands for that. Well, in support of that, and I guess we're about 7 years old now, I got together with a gentleman by the name of Angelo Verone, and we sat down and we said, let's create a certification program for the industry. And the name we picked was the Digital Signage Experts Group. Seemed rather appropriate at the time. And we then gave birth to this thing we called a certification program. And we developed the 7 key elements of digital signage. It almost sounds like George Carlin's 7 dirty words you can't say on television. Business, content, design, software, hardware, connectivity, and operations, the 7 key elements of digital signage. And each and every digital signage situation, project, system that happens is going to use each of those in every single solitary one of their installations. And so we took that as our core. And so we started out and we developed, and we had a fairly, I guess I would want to say almost an archaic back-end e-learning system that we incorporated back in the day. And thank goodness gracious, over the last year, we've developed literally a state-of-the-art website and a state-of-the-art, they call it a back end, but what it really refers to is an e-learning tool that gives you the ability to trace people who take the course, how long they take a course, how long they take a section, how many times they take an exam, etc. And so we now have this expansive tool, this analytical tool to analyze the effectiveness of what the education is. So you blend the Digital Signage Expo, the Digital Signage Federation, and the Digital Signage Experts Group, and each of those groups has new and expanded web presence. So if you think about it, the DSE, the DSF, and the Digital Signage Experts Group are really all now digital for the first time. And this has increased our efficiency, it's increased our effectiveness, and most importantly for the digital signage industry, it's increased our outreach. We are now in 64 countries with over 18,000 people, and we're expanding as we speak. So yeah, good news, better tools to do a better job for the industry. The interesting part, and I'll be happy to share some of the companies that we work with. We've been honored to be of service to companies like JetBlue, Southwest Airlines, Bass Pro Shops, Ralph Lauren, the Atlanta Zoo, the San Diego Zoo, all sorts of locations, Cablevision out on the East Coast. So all sorts of companies that we have interfaced with and helped them along their digital signage journey. I like to talk about the journey because it really is a journey, because it looks so simple on the surface, but in fact it's not. It is a journey, it is an evolution, it is a progression, and so we've been very fortunate. From the manufacturer's perspectives, we've been fortunate enough to work with all of the big display companies, but most especially people like Samsung and Canon and Texas Instruments and Stewart Film Screening, companies like that, and we've helped develop their digital signage infrastructure infrastructure as they develop support tools for their resellers. And then the big distributors, one of the things that most people don't understand is the role that distributors play in this digital signage scenario we've got. You think about the manufacturers and you think about the end users, and of course we've got an active consultant community, but then you've got these distributors, ones like an Ingram Micro or a Stampede or a Cenex or a Tech Data, these distributors who literally have embraced digital signage and are rolling out, and they all have teams, and they roll out projects, and they have teams all now dedicated to digital signage. If you and I were having this conversation 10 years ago, we would not be able to have the conversation that you and I just had because it did not exist. I was teaching the certification course yesterday, and I likened it to parents, the terrible twos. You've got a child, and when the kids are in their terrible twos, which, by the way, I as a parent happen to find quite exciting, you get them in the terrible twos, and they're into everything. They find rat poison in places, and you didn't even have rat poison, and they're drinking out of areas that they shouldn't be drinking out of, and eating mud, and all of that's the terrible twos. Well, the digital signage industry had gone from being born into it lasted probably more than 2 years. I would probably kindly say it probably lasted for 4 or 5. We are now officially out of the terrible twos. Really, that's about 18 months old, that comment, but it's true. We are now in the early stages of becoming mature. Now, some people are going to look at that and they're going to take a little umbrage at it and go, I don't want to be mature. I want it to be, kind of the long hair, loosey-goosey kind of an industry that frankly, it was kind of a barnstorming mentality, to use an old metaphor. The truth of the matter is that we are now getting into a more mature industry, and the benefit of that is that we have different segments of the industry that we can recognize. And the other thing, and you and I have talked about this over the years, and I never want us to have a conversation where I don't emphasize this, is the inclusive nature, and it really does relate to what you all at the Digital Signage Expo have pioneered, and it's this concept. It's not about the manufacturers or the distributors or the consultants or the end users or the advertising agencies or the service providers. It's about all of them. The constituency is very broad. And the Digital Signage Expo, almost unique in this regard. The largest automobile show in the world is SEMA, Specialty Equipment Marketing Association, and nobody is allowed outside other than specific industry people. Now, being a car guy, I would love to attend, but I can't get credentials. The truth of the matter is our constituency here is broad. We embrace that constituency. And interestingly enough, every year, there's a guy named Richard Lebovitz who heads up the educational group, and I work with him every year on helping create educational programs. It's interesting to note that we analyze the people who actually attend this show. In fact, we'll probably start next week analyzing the people that attend this show, and we will create educational programs exactly correlating to the constituents and the attendees that attend this show. I can honestly say to you, working with all sorts of trade shows over the last 35 years, this is the only example of totally embracing a broad group of constituencies to deliver what they need. And what they need is education. They need exposure to the wonderful exhibits that we have here. They certainly need certification. They need a federation to be part of that is purely nonprofit, the Digital Signage Federation. Forgive me for the plug, as the past chairman, I'm almost honor bound to do that. But I really believe in what the DSF stands for. So that's kind of how we've gotten here and some of the names that might resonate with people. I just want to leave you with one thought. The digital signage industry has arrived.